So yesterday we saw a story about Rabbi Eliezer the Tana, who unfortunately had to go through a very unfortunate event in his life. He got arrested by the authorities and narrowly escaped, terrible things. And he was very upset, like, what did I do to deserve this? So Rabbi Akiva had reminded him, Rebbe, perhaps there was something that you did to approve of some kind of heresy in your life. And Rabbi Eliezer said, Yutaka reminded me that I once encountered a student of Yeshu, an early Christian, who had offered me a Devar Torah on how to interpret the pasuk of a pasuk in Micha that says, let me just see where's the pasuk. I'm not looking at the right dot. That's the reason why. Sorry. Right. Right. It says Ki me esnan zona kibitzav et esnan zona yoshuvu. That it says that from an esnan zona she gathers, and to an esnan zona she shall return. And the way that this Talmud of Yeshu had interpreted it is, we can infer from this pasuk that you can take the wages of a zona and use it to make even a beis hakisei for the Kohen Gadol. Even though you're contributing for something on the Temple Mount, but since it's for a degrading kind of activity, you can use something that came from degradation and invest it in something that will contribute to further, to another degrading activity. So Rabbi Eliezer said, he gave me that vort, and it was taka a nice vort. I got hana from it. I got pleasure from that Devar Torah, and that's why I was mistaken, because you have to distance yourself from any kind of heresy that, and as we'll see, the allure of early Christianity was so intense that it was considered to be something that had to be fought actively by the rabbinic community, and you'll see that in just a moment. And in any event, v'rabbanan. So we're about 15 lines down, and the question now is, v'rabbanan haime esnan zona mai darshibe. If they're not learning like that student of Yeshu, how taka are they interpreting this pasuk? The Rav Chisda, the Amar Rav Chisda, kol zona sheniskeres, lebasofi socheres, shenemar, uvesitecha esnan, ve'esnan lo nitan loch, vatihi lahefech. That there's a pasuk in Yecheskel that supports the same idea in Micha, which is, nothing having to do with halachically being permitted to use the money for another degrading activity, but rather it's a principle that any prostitute who takes money because she's a highfalutin lady of the night, eventually she will fall from her perch so high that no one will want to be with her, and she'll have to actually hire men to be with her because she'll be so degraded. That's the lesson of that pasuk in Micha, that she started off taking wages and then she'll have to end up giving them away. And that's the same idea that's communicated in the pasuk in Yecheskel, that you, in the past, had to pay for the esnan, and the esnan did not have to give to you, but it'll be just the opposite, where she'll have to pay in order for men to consort with her. Now, the Gemara then says, upliga de Rebbe Pedas. What we said before, in the course of our discussion about Rabbi Eliezer, was that, according to Rabbi Eliezer, it is necessary to distance yourself, Daled Amos, from a brothel. In other words, that's one of the things that Rabbi Eliezer taught. A person has to distance himself from both minus and from zunus. And that was based on another pasuk in Mishlei. The pasuk says, Harchek me'oleha darkecha, and ve'al tikrav al pesach beisa. Do not distance yourself from all kinds of heresy, and do not come close to her house, referring to a house of znus, a brothel. But that in itself disagrees with Rebbe Pedas, because as we'll see, Rebbe Pedas is of the opinion that there is no such requirement to distance yourself from anything other than actual sexual practice. Lo asra Torah el akreva shel gilui arayas bilvad, shenamar ish el kol she'er b'sor lo sikruv legalos erva. The Rabbi Pedas says, if you're looking at the Isser Deoraisa, forget about the Rabbans for a second, but just looking at the Isser Deoraisa, the Torah only prohibits actual sexual activity, and that's what the verb lo sikruvu, do not approach, means actual gili arayas, actual sexual activity. Ula ki hava asimi beirav, hava menashik lehula achte, abe yadayu v'amri la abe chadayu. when Ula would come home from yeshiva, he would be greeted by his sisters, and he loved them very much. And in order to show his love, he either kissed them on the hand, according to some opinions, or kissed them on the chest, which probably means like on the shoulder, whatever it was. Upliga didei adidei, and Ula's own policy actually disagreed with something that he actually taught. Da Amar Ula kreva ba'al ma'asr mishum lech amri naziras chor schor lekarmelo sikrav. Ula, regardless of whether he subscribed to Rabbi Eliezer's shita or Rabbi Pedas's shita, is what the Torah prohibits, but there's certainly a rabbinic concern of distancing yourself from even the possibility of doing anything with an erva. And on what basis is there? So Ula taught, we say to a nazir, go away, we say to the nazir, to the vineyard do not approach. Meaning, if you know that something is forbidden to you, don't come close to it, stay away from it. And that's the same context of what we were talking about before, of not walking within Dalet Amos of a brothel. The Gemara doesn't reconcile the Ula's contradiction. In other words, Ula's in his personal practice loved his sisters so much that he gave him a kiss, but at the same time he was of the belief that you have to do whatever you can to distance yourself from erva. So it could be he felt that in his own personal life he knew that there was nothing sexual, there were no undertones whatsoever in the way he treated his sister, so he felt it was okay.
Back to the zoning for a second. The Yehuda Tamar, how do we reconcile that with the opinion you're supposed to stay Dalet Amos from a zoner?
Okay, it's before Matan Torah. There's you'll have to talk about that another time. La'aluka. Now we go to a pasuk in Mishlei. La'aluka shtei vanos hav. There's a pasuk that says, it's a very cryptic pasuk, that to the aluka, which normally is translated as a leech, but as you'll see in the context that we're quoting it here, it's translated as Gehenim. That Gehenim has two daughters, hav, give. So my hav, what did that mean? Omar mar ukva kol shtei bano shetzoakos mi Gehenim ve'omers ba'olam hazeh havei umaninhu minus v'harishus. That there are two daughters of Gehenim that cry out from the depths of Gehenim and say in this world, give. And they are government and heresy. In other words, the way Rashi explains is that it's very seductive for a person to get involved in government because it gives you a sense of power. It's also very seductive, the early Christian church. You have to remember, what were they promising? It's a message of love, it's a message of salvation, and without any obligation to do mitzvahs. And so the early church was viewed as one of the greatest threats to the future of rabbinic Judaism. And so Chazal, you see here, are trying to polemicize against it and make sure that you don't get caught up in it. So these are two things that they may seem attractive to you at the beginning, but in the end, you're just going to get sucked further and further, and you're going to have to give, and you won't know how to extricate yourself from it. Ika da Amri, Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Mar Ukva, Kol Gehenim Tzoekes V'Meres Haviu Lishtei Banos, Shetzoakos V'Omros Ba'olam Hazeh Havei. So some say that's slightly different, that the sound of Gehenim cries out and says, bring me my two daughters that are my proxies in this world, who always cry out, give. Now, that the next pasuk that we're going to look at is again in Mishlei, Kol Bo'eha Lo Yeshuvun V'Lo Yasigu Orchos Chaim. Anyone who comes down to the Aluka, to Gehenim, will never be able to return, meaning they will never be able to do tshuva. V'lo yasigu orchos chaim, nor will they reach the pathways of life. So the Gemara says it seems to be repetitive. V'chi me'achar shelo shavu heichen yasigu. Why do you have to tell me they'll never reach the paths of life if you already told me they won't do tshuva? Then obviously they won't reach the paths of life. So the Gemara says, hachi kamar, v'im yashuvu lo yasigu orchos chaim. So what that means is that even when a person attempts to do tshuva from getting sucked into the government and getting entangled with government and getting Jews in trouble, or getting entangled with the early church, and he wants to do tshuva, wants to rehabilitate himself, he may even do tshuva, but he'll become so broken as a result of the internal conflict in his own life that he'll die a broken man as a result of trying to get out of the evil of getting caught up with the rishus and with minus. So the Gemara says, Lememra dechol haporesh miminos mayas. You mean to tell me that anyone who extricates themselves from heresy will eventually die? They'll die prematurely. V'ha'hi da'asoi lekami d'Rav Chisda v'amr le'kala shebekalos asasa b'nah ha'katan mi'b'nah ha'gadol. Look at the following story. There's once a woman who comes and appears before Rav Chisda, and she says, Rabbi, I want to do tshuva, but you should know about me that the smallest of my sins was that my younger son is a product of my older son. In other words, I had relations with my older son, and we had this little mamzer, this little boy. So v'amar lo Rav Chisda, tarchu la bizavdasa. Rav Chisda felt that this woman's case was hopeless, so he said, prepare tachrichin for this woman. There's nothing I can do for her. But velo mesa, but she didn't die. She actually survived. So the Gemara now says, midika amra kalasha bekalos asasa michlal deminus nami havyaba. So you see, if she said the smallest sin was committing incest, it implies that she was guilty of even greater things, including heresy. And yet she didn't die, even though she wanted to do tshuva. So why didn't she die according to what you're saying? The Gemara answers, Hahu de lo hadra ba shapir umishum hachi lo mesa. The answer is because she really didn't do full tshuva. What Rav Chisda was saying is, prepare the tachrichin because this woman will never fully rehabilitate herself. And what we're saying is that when a person really does full tshuva, they will die broken because of the conflict. But she didn't experience the conflict, so she didn't die because she really didn't do a full tshuva. Now, Ika da Amri, others learned the story was the other way. Miminus in me avera lo. You mean to tell me that you only die when you do tshuva from heresy, but from stam and avera, let's say an avera of znus, you don't die when you do tshuva? Ve'hahi da'asoi kamei Rav Chisda va'amar la Rav Chisda zavidu la zavdasa umesa. So this woman came before Rav Chisda, like the story was before, and when Rav Chisda heard her story, he said, prepare tachrichin for her, and she taka did die, according to this version of the story. Midika amra kalasha bekalos. So the Gemara says, what's the question? You see from here that all she did was incest. She didn't commit acts of heresy, and yet she still died when she tried to do tshuva. So why are you only saying that you die from tshuva from minus and not from tshuva from znus? So the Gemara answers, Midika amra kalasha bekalos michlal deminus nami havyaba. So the answer is because when she said that I did the smallest of the sins I did was incest, that implied that she also was involved with heresy, and that's why she taka died, because she was doing tshuva from heresy. Ume avera lo. So now you're telling me that for sexual crimes, if a person does tshuva, he doesn't die? Let me show you from the following story that that's not true. The Hatanya, and Shlomi, remember I told you we would get to this? Amru alav al Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya, shelo hiniach zone echas ba'olam shelo bo aleha. You know, some guys collect baseball cards. Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya collected prostitutes. He prided himself that there was no zona that he had not consorted with in the world. However, pam echas shama she'izona echas bekirchei hayam v'haisa noteles kis dinern bischara. He heard, but there's this one very fancy, highfalutin lady of the night in a very far away place, and she takes a full bag of dinars for her services. So he was very intrigued. Natal kis dinrin v'holak v'over alei shivan haros. So he takes a huge sum of money, crosses over 7 rivers in order to find her. B'shas hergel davar heficha. And in the middle of while they're becoming intimate, she passes gas, which is sort of a cautionary tale also. Just because you hear that someone is fantastic, don't take don't believe it just because she's from some exotic place, but she doesn't seem to be worth it if this is what's going on at the time, right? So she passes gas, and then Amra kishem shehaficha zu eina choseres lemekoma kach Elazar ben Durdaya ein makablano so b'ser shuva. She says, just like this flatulence will never go back to its source, so too will Elazar ben Durdaya never be accepted back to tshuva. So holach v'yoshav ben shnei hara mugvos. So he has this epiphany when he hears her say this, and he grabs himself and he realizes that his life has been a sham. He goes and sits between 2 mountains and hills. Amar hara mugvos bikshu alai rachamim. So he says, cries out to the mountains and hills, pray for mercy, that Hashem should show me mercy. Amru lo adshanu mevakshim alechem levakesh al atzmeinu. Before we daven for you, we have to daven for ourselves. Shenemar ki ha'orim yamushu v'hagavaos temutena. Because the pasuk says that in the future, all the hills and mountains will be destroyed and melted away. So we have to think about our own welfare. Now, of course, Tosfos says that it's not that he actually heard them speak, but he's going through the psychological torture about his whole life, and it's almost as if he can hear the mountains speaking to him, but they're not literally speaking to him. Omar Shemayim v'aretz bakshu alai rachamim. He cries out, heaven and earth, pray for mercy for me. So Amru adshanu mevakshim alechem levakesh al atzmeinu shnemar ki shemaim ke'oshan nimlachu v'aretz kevegetiv aleh. And they said the same thing. We can't daven for you, we got to daven for ourselves, because in the future world, heaven and earth will also be wiped away. Amar chamu levana bakshu alai rachamim. Amr lo adshanu mevakshim alechem levakesh al atzmeinu shnemar bechafra halavana uvosha hachama. He says, sun and moon, pray for mercy for me. And they said, we got to daven for ourselves, because in the future world, the moon will hide, the sun will be embarrassed. So Amar kochavim umazalos bakshu alai rachamim. Amr lo adshanu mevakshim alechem levakesh al atzmeinu shnemar v'nomaku kol tzva hashamayim. That he says, stars and constellations daven for mercy for me. And they say back to him, we got to daven for ourselves, because it says that all of the stars and the constellations will be eliminated. So Omar ein hadavar talui ela bi. He comes to the conclusion the matter is dependent upon me alone. And of course, as many of the Meforshim point out, what Rebbe Elazar ben Durdaya was trying to do initially was trying to rationalize, it's not my fault. It's my culture, it's my upbringing, it's my school, it's my teachers, it's the internet, I'm just a victim of circumstance. All of these things in my surroundings were responsible for the person that I am today. And he hears them yelling back at him, what are you talking about? We know that we've got problems, but it's up to you to change yourself. You've got bechira. And that's the conclusion that he comes to. So he places his head between his knees and groans out a cry to the point where he passes away. And a heavenly voice cries out and says that Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya has a share in the world to come. So the Gemara's question is, there's no heresy here, and yet you see, doing tshuva for a crime of znus is enough to cause a person to die. So the Gemara answers, Hasam nami kivin da'avik batuva keminus damya. The Gemara says that here too, because he was so addicted to pornography, and he had a sex addiction, he was as addicted to that as he was to heresy. In other words, the whole point is that you become so addicted to a lifestyle of the early church that as much as you try to extricate yourself, you either can't or you do tshuva and you die in the process. If a person is so addicted to any other kind of negative behavior, the same thing will happen. It's just that it happens to be that there's nothing as addictive as minus. But if a person does get taka addicted to things that are as addictive to that person as minus, the same thing will happen to him. And that's what happened to Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya. So, Bacha Rebbe v'Amar yesh kaina olamo bekama shanim v'yishkama olamo b'shah echas. When Rebbe heard this story, he cried, and he said, it's so ironic that some people have to spend a whole lifetime to get Olam Haba, and other people can acquire it in one moment. V'Amar Rebbe lo dayin labali tshuva shemekablen osan ala shekoren osan Rebbe. And not only is a Bal Tshuva, does he gain a lofty status, but he's called rabbi. Look, because he wasn't a rabbi, but because he taught this vital lesson to Klal Yisrael, he becomes known as Rebbe as a result of his valorous deed. Rabbi Chanina v'Rabbi Yonasan havi ka'azli bu'urcha matu lahano trei shvili chad potzi apischa d'avodas kochavim v'chad potzi apischa d'beizonos. These two sages were once walking down the road, and they come to a crossroads, and they can take one of two paths. One path opens up to a church, and the other one opens up to a brothel. So Amar lei chad lechavri nezel apischa d'avodas kochavim de nachis yitzrei. He said. So one rabbi says to the other, "Let's go on the road where there's a church, because as we know from the Gemara in Yoma, The rabbis abolished the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zara. They didn't fully abolish the Yetzer Hara for Znus, so let's go to the one where we know we don't have such a Yetzer Hara anymore. We're safer. So Amar le idach nezel apischa de vezainus v'nichpaye liyitzin u'nekabel igra. The other one says, au contraire. Let us go by the one where the brothel is, because since we have a Yetzer Hara, we'll be strong. Don't worry, we'll be strong. And by resisting our Yetzer Hara, we'll get reward for having been strong. Kimatu hasam chazinu lezainais iskanu mikamayu. And when they get closer to the brothel, the prostitutes see them and they see that they're so holy and emitting such resolve not to succumb to sin that they are scared of the rabbis and they hide because they're embarrassed from them. And that's how they're able to walk past successfully. So the sage turns to his friend who gave the advice and says, how did you know that we would be so protected? So Amar lei mizima tishmar alecha tevuna tinsarecha. He says it's a pasuk in Mishlei. It says that mizima will watch over you and tevuna will protect you. So what does that pasuk mean? So Amar lei Rabbanan l'Rava, my mizima. What does the word mizima mean? Ilema Torah, maybe you'll tell me that the word mizima over here means Torah itself, that Torah will watch over you. Dichsiv bazimo mitargaminan atzas chatoin. Because there's a pasuk that uses the word zima, and it's translated in Aramaic as being counsel for sin. And maybe the word zima there means counsel, and it's only contextually that it means counsel for sin. But counsel can mean either good counsel or bad counsel, and Torah is good counsel, so that's maybe what the word mizima means. We know that the word Eitzah refers to Torah, because in another pasuk it's compared to Tushiyah, and Tushiyah means for sure Torah, because it's something that is mateshes kocho shalodam, it weakens a person physically. So ihachi, but if that's the way to translate the pasuk, then zima mi boile. The pasuk should not say mizima or mezima, but rather should say stam zima. So therefore, the fact that it doesn't say that, you have to retranslate it. Hachi ka'amar. What it really means, mizima midevar zima tishmor alecha Torah tinsorecha. The word for Torah in the pasuk is tevuna, which is understanding. And that's the key word, that the Torah will protect you from a zima dika act, the word zima means something licentious, and it will watch over you. That's how you have to translate the pasuk. Tana Rabbanan, Kishenitfasu Rebbe Lazar, this is a very important story. Again, we're going to see this is our third story, Shloimi, about the Baskol. Okay, so let's see. Kishenitfasu Rebbe Lazar ben Prata Rabbi Chanina ben Trajon, Amarle Rebbe Lazar ben Prata Rabbi Chanina ben Trajon, Ashrecha shenitfasta al davar echad, oili shenitfasti al chamisha dvar. So, these two guys are sitting in jail. These two great Tanoim, Rebbe Lazar ben Prata and Rabbi Chanina ben Trajon. Rebbe Lazar turns to Rabbi Chanina and he says, woe is me and fortunate are you. I was arrested for 5 crimes that I'm accused of. You've only been accused of 1 crime. So Amarle Rabbi Chanina, Ashrecha shenitfasta al chamisha dvarim va'ata nitzol, oili shenitfasti al davar echad ve'eni nitzol. And Rabbi Chanina says back to Rebbe Lazar, you got it wrong. Fortunate are you, because even though you've been accused of 5 crimes, your life will be spared. But I, even though I'm accused of 1 crime, I know that this is curtains for me. Sha'ata asakta betor v'gemilos chasadim v'anilo asakti el betorah bilvad. Because you spent your life engaging in Torah study and doing acts of chesed, outside the Beis Medrash. But I spent my whole life studying Torah only. Uchel Ravuna da'amar Ravuna kol osek betorah bilvad doime kemi she'en lo eloka. As Ravuna said, anyone who spends his whole time studying Torah and does not do acts of chesed to accompany them is as if he has no God. Shenemar v'yomim rabam li Yisrael lo elokei emes v'goymer. That there were many days, it says in Divrei Hayomim, that the Jews did not have God, a God of truth. Ma'ila lo elokei emes shekol osek b'torah bilvad dorme kemi she'en lo eloka. So it means not that they didn't believe in God, not that they didn't worship God, but they only studied Torah and weren't interested in helping other people. So this has to be, of course, reinforced in many Torah communities where a premium is placed on only Torah study and not on doing other things. So it's just important to know. Uvegemilos chasadim lo asak, you mean to tell me that Rabbi Chanina did not engage in acts of chesed? V'hatanya Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Lo yitein adam ma'osav la'arnaki shel tzedakah eli imkein memuna alav talmid chacham k'Rabbi Chanina ben Traja. Why did Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov then say that a person should not entrust his hard-earned money to a tzedakah cause unless he knows that the person in charge of the tzedakah is a scholar like Rabbi Chanina, who is so trustworthy? So you see that Rabbi Chanina did engage in tzedakah activities. So the Gemara says, no, himnuahu dahava meheman mi'avid lo avad. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov was just saying that Rabbi Chanina is a trustworthy person, but he himself did not engage in tzedakah, but you have to find someone who's in charge of the tzedakah who's as trustworthy as Rabbi Chanina. But v'hatanya amar lo moshel purim nischalfuli b'moshel tzedakah v'chalaktim la'aniyim. But wait a minute, what about the following story? We know that Rabbi Chanina was involved in tzedakah and chesed, because he said that one year, I got my own personal funds accidentally commingled with the tzedakah funds that I was raising, and so I gave all of it to the aniyim so that they could have su'uda on Purim. So, mi'avid avad k'deboyle lo avad. But the Gemara answers, you're right. Rabbi Chanina ben Trajon did engage in acts of chesed, but not enough for a man of his, for his financial bracket. And that's what Rabbi Chanina ben Trajon was lamenting, is that I did a lot of tzedakah, but I should have done much more. Anyway, Asiula Rabbi Elazar ben Prata, Amru my time atanis, my time agonaft. So let's see the court case of Rabbi Elazar ben Prata. The authorities bring him to judgment, and they say, you're accused of the following two crimes. You studied Torah, and you were a robber. Why did you do those two things? Amar lahu, isaifa lo safra, visafra lo saifo, midaha lesa, hanami lesa. So Rabbi Elazar's response is, listen, a guy can either have a sword or he can have a book. He can't have both. It's nonsensical what you're accusing me of. Either a person is a scholar and sits and learns, or he's a highwayman and he robs people. How can you accuse me of both? And if one of those charges is false, then we can assume the other charge is false. I've been falsely accused. So umay time akarulach Rabbi. So he's saying they're false witnesses. So why then do they call you Rabbi Elazar if you're not a sage? So Rabban shel tarsiyamani. He says, oh, the word rabbi just means master. I'm not a master of Torah. I'm a master of a trade. I'm a mentor of apprentices who want to learn the art of weaving. I'm a master weaver. So Aisule Trei Kibori, Amrule Hey Deshasya Vehe Da'arva. So they said, oh, you're such a master weaver? They brought out two spools of thread, and they said, show us which one is for the warp and which one is for the woof. One is thicker than the other. So if you're such a master weaver, you should know the difference between the two. He had no clue, right? It's like these stories about people who in the concentration camps, when they said, who's a cobbler? They push you to raise your hand because that saved your life. So what is he going to do? So Israchish le Nisa Asya Ziborisa Osiva al Deshasya ve'asoi Zibora v'Yosiv al Da'arva. Amar Lahu Hay Deshasya v'Hay Da'arva. So Hashem caused the miracle to happen. There were two bees in the room, a female bee and a male bee. Now, would you be able to tell the difference between the two? But he actually knew. He knew from Talmud-Torah. He knew because you have to know biology to know certain Gemaras about honey manufacturing in the Gemara. So he knew how to identify the difference between a male bee and a female bee. The female bee fell on the shesi, and the male bee fell on the orev. And that is exactly descriptive, because when you're weaving, one type of thread is passive, is just attached to the loom and doesn't move, and the other thread weaves in and out of the passive thread. So therefore, that's an indication. One is female and one is male. And that's how he knew. Because of that miracle, he knew which one was the shesi and which one was the erev. So, Amar Leu, my time alo asis levei avidim. Okay, so we'll dismiss the first two charges. What about the charge that you didn't come to the festival at our church to celebrate the Avodah Zara? Why didn't you come? So Amar Lahu Zakin Hayisi Umisyari Ani Shematir Musuni Biraglecha. I'm an old man. I thought I would get trampled by all of the excitement in those festivals. So Amru Vad Ha'idin Kamasabi Isramus. They said, what are you talking about? What old men have ever gotten trampled at our festivals? But Israchish Nisa Hu Yoma Irmas Chatzaba. But another miracle happened. that on that very day, they got news that an old man had been trampled at the festival. So they dismissed the third charge. Why did you free your slave? Only Jews free their slaves. Romans would never, dedicated, citizens would never free their slaves. So Amar Lahu lo hayu dvarim me'olam. He says that's false, and that never happened. So kam chad minahu la'asudei bey. So a certain person, maybe he was a Jew, a heretic Jew, whatever it was, he was about to leave to go to the courthouse to testify against Rabbi Elazar ben Prata. Asa Eliyahu idmi lekechad mechashuvi de malchus, and Eliyahu appears to that man disguised as one of a Roman official. So Amar Leimi de Israchish leinisa bekulu bahanami Israchish leinisa vehu gavra bishusehu de ka'akvi. He says to him, he says, listen, look at all the miracles that have happened to Rabbi Elazar ben Prata up until now to save his skin. If you go to try and get him in trouble, another miracle will happen, and you'll just see your own downfall. So velo ashkach bey, but this fellow did not listen to Eliyahu. Kam lememar lehu, and he went, and he was about to go and testify, but all of a sudden he is accosted by avaksiva igarta avaksiv mechashive de malchus lishturi lebei kesar v'shadruha al yadeh de'ahu gavra. All of a sudden, someone comes as an emissary from the king and says, you've been appointed to deliver this very important document to the Caesar in Rome. You must leave immediately. And Asa Eliyahu paske arbameya parsi. And Eliyahu came, grabbed this document from him, threw it 400 parses so that it was totally lost. And velo asa, azal velo asa. So, and this guy ran away because he realized that now that I can't deliver this important document, I'm going to be arrested and executed for not fulfilling the king's edict, and it's going to be curtains for me. So this guy ran away. So this is how Rabbi Elazar ben Prata was spared from all of the accusations. Now, I only counted 4, but there must have been a fifth.
The first 2 were combined.
I know, the first 2, then there was 3 and 4. So you'll have to figure out what number 5 is. I didn't catch it. Asyuhu Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan. They went ahead and they went and arrested Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan, or so they brought him for trial, rather.
The 5th one's teaching Torah.
So Amrulay, what?
The 5th one was teaching Torah, because that's what the other guy had. Only had 1.
No, the first one was teaching Torah. Tanis, you were teaching Torah. Second one was that you're a robber. Third one is that you freed your is that you didn't attend the festival, and the fourth one is that you freed your slave. I'm not sure what.
The weaver. They asked him, "What did you do for?"
Oh, that's right. Well, that's not an accusation against him. That wasn't. That's not.
They're asking, "What do you do? Aren't you a rabbi? You're a rabbi. What are you doing?"
So maybe what the accusation is that you're a rabbi. Okay, maybe because being a rabbi is also a crime. Could be. Okay, so then they bring Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan for judgment. So Amrulay Amaika Askas be'oraisa. Why were you studying Torah? So Amar Lahu Kasher Tzivani Hashem Elokai. He doesn't even try to get out of it. He says, quotes a pasuk from the forbidden Bible, and says, "This is what God has commanded me." Miyad Gazrul of Lisreifa Valishto Lahariga Valbito Leshe Bekuba Shel Zonos. So they immediately decreed that he will be burned, executed by burning. His wife will be executed in a lighter form of execution, and his daughter will be consigned to a brothel for the rest of her life. So, Olav Lisreifa Shahaya Hoige Es Hashem Ba'osi Yosef. Why did Hashem allow him to be executed? Because there was one small thing that he did, which was that when he would learn Torah, he would pronounce Hashem's name in the way that it was spelled Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And at least that's the way Tosfos learns. Ve'hechi Abid Hachi. How could he do that? The following do not have a share in the world to come, says the Gemara, says the Mishnah in Perek Chelek. And the Ha'omer ein Torah min hashamayim ve'in tchias hamesim min haTorah. The first two are if a person denies that Torah comes from heaven, or he denies that there's tchias hamesim taught by the Torah. And Abishol Omer af ha'hoige es Hashem ba'osi Yosef. And Abishol says even if a person pronounces the Shem Havaya when he's learning Torah, that person too also, if that's in a Beferish Mishnah, how could Rabbi Chanina do that? The Gemara answer is Lihislamed Avad. But he did it in order to practice the pronunciation of Hashem's name. He wasn't doing it on a regular basis, just stamazoi. He was doing it to train himself. Kidatanya lo silmad la'asos avatalame lahavinu lahoros. The Torah says you may not train yourself to learn idolatrous ways, but you can train yourself to learn how to fulfill how to serve Hashem properly. So that's why he did it. Elamai time hiyanish. So if that's the case, what did he do wrong? So why was he punished? Mishum hoige es Hashem b'farhesia, because when he was teaching publicly, he allowed himself to practice uttering the Shem Havaya. It's one thing to do it privately, but to do it publicly, it's an overexposure of Hashem's name, and that's why Hashem took him to task. For a regular person, it might not have been bad, but for a tzaddik like him, that was considered a crime. Just another couple of lines. Va'al ishto lahariga de lo michabe, mikan amru kol mi sheyesh biyad limchos ve'no mocha nena shalav. Why was his wife executed? Because the Rebbitzin should have protested. You see from here that a Rebbitzin can't say, "Oh, my husband's a rabbi, what can I do?" No, she has to stand up if she sees her husband doing something wrong. She's going to say something. And so she didn't, and she too was punished. Why was his daughter consigned to a brothel? It's because one time she was walking past a bunch of Roman dignitaries and she heard them saying, "How dainty are this Jewess's footsteps?" And miyad diktika b'pisio sehan. So she was even more meticulous in the way that she walked in order to make a nice impression. So v'hainu d'amar Reb Shimon ben Lakish mai dichsiv avone keva yisubeini avono sh'adam dash ba'akevav ba'olam hazeh mesubin lo liyom hadin. Because it teaches us the sin of my heels shall surround me. Sins that a person tramples on with his heels or performs with his heels in this world will surround him as punishment in the next world. We'll hold it here for today. Have a wonderful day. I'm sorry, Rabbi Chanan ben Akash.